she's gonna ride for her man, yes, but like even he doesn't make the smartest decisions. She doesn't stand by them just because she makes. She's not gonna follow him
She's
around.
not. She's not. I feel like you're about to say a name.
No,
I
I'm
feel
just saying,
like you're about to say a name right there, and like you just kind of stopped yourself. Who is she not like?
she's not like.
Hello. How are you today?
What's up? What's up? What's up? How are you?
Guys, I'm doing all right. It's very hot here in the district today. It's like 93 degrees.
Yeah.
And if anybody knows anything about DC summers, it's like a swamp. So,
Mm.
got that going for us today. But whatever. Hello, everybody else. Welcome back to another relaunch. I'm
What's up, y'all? I am LZ.
And how are you? What's like going on in LA? Are you guys still on lockdown? Have you got your second shot yet? Are you almost there? What's happening?
So I just got my second shot
Okay.
2 days ago. 2 days ago.
Ew,
Yeah, so
vaccinated
like yeah.
summer.
It's gonna be a vaccinated summer. I haven't had any kind of like you know, wild experiences right now or anything like that. My arm was a
Yeah.
little sore afterwards,
Okay.
but like expected. But yeah, I'm gonna give it the 2 weeks that you're supposed to give it.
All right.
Whatever, but it's also the pop in the summer.
Okay, I'm with it.
Trust and believe.
Yes. And speaking of popping, let's go ahead. Let's get into these comics of the week. So, first up on our list, we have Nightwing number, what is this, 80?
Yeah.
Nightwing 80 from Tom Taylor and Bruno Redondo. Shout out to Nightwing for getting the 80 issues, too. Is that like a first time for him? Is this something he does on a regular?
This is not something he does on the regular, so shout out to him for going this far. And I really enjoyed this issue. I have to say, Tim Drake stands, rise up, because we got one in this one.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He is makes a cameo in this book because, as I previously said in issue 79, there's this villain who's been stealing hearts of people and leaving these kids homeless.
Yes.
And Nightwing is in need of some assistance, so he says, "I need my brother," and who comes but Tim Drake. And Nightwing talks about how Tim is the best Robin, and like that's and like he's like, I totally get it, and because Tim is just he makes a good Robin. And he comes in and helps him out. They kind of figure out. They have a whole talk about the case and everything. Nightwing feels really guilty about what has happened because in the previous issue he helped this homeless man have a night in a hotel. He like paid for him to have a night in the hotel with him and his kid. And before the man got to the hotel, he got attacked and had his heart stolen. And Nightwing is very compassionate, and so he feels really guilty about this. Whereas, Tim is very like logical but empathetic, so he feels for.
Yeah, he's trying to be there for him.
He's trying to be there for him, yeah. So they like are basically getting to the camp, and Nightwing tells him, "I don't need Robin, I need Tim Drake. So I need you to like, because you're good with kids. So like, I'd rather you go in there and see if you can like work with these kids because all these kids have their parents' hearts stolen. They've kind of created this whole like town for themselves with these like tents in Bloodhaven. So they have this whole like little community. Tim Drake kind of gets in there, talks to the kids. They bring the puppy that he had before, Harley. I'm sorry, Haley. Like Haley Circus, the circus that Nightwing was a part of. Yeah, I thought. So yeah, it was a great issue. You get a little bit of some action in it. Electrocutioner shows up and Brutal.
Mm-hmm.
They've been like contracted to like, I don't know, attack the kids for some reason. And Nightwing ends up taking them out. And then we at the end of this, we see the Heartless Man is showing up into this town with the kids. So Great issue. Art is amazing by Bruno Redondo. Like,
Yeah.
stellar.
I love that guy. He's
Yeah,
great.
amazing stuff. There's a really cool fight scene with Nightwing and Robin, Tim Drake, where
Hmm.
they just have such a like synchronized way of fighting with each other that it's really, really cool to see. Nightwing throws him the staff and they like swing with each other and fight with it. It's really cool. So yeah, great issue. I would honestly give this a 3.5 out of 5, maybe a 4.
Okay. Okay. Why the
Oh.
hesitation of a 4?
I would have liked it to have just a little bit more story about the Heartless stuff versus
Mm-hmm.
the setup to them getting to the town of where these kids were.
Okay.
Otherwise, I would have gotten definitely a 4.
Okay. All right. 3.5 out of 5. Nightwing. Shout out to him. All right. So next up on the list we have Justice League number 61 from Brian Michael Bendis and Dave Marquez. There's also a JLD backup from Ranvi and Zornico. And I'm gonna be honest with you. If it wasn't for this Justice League Dark backup, I would probably drop this book.
Oh,
Um, So I
okay.
don't know if you remember. So at the end of the last issue, the team ended up in Naomi's home dimension. So as soon as we get there, like the team is completely separated. Everybody's on their own. People's powers are acting up a little bit differently. Like Black Canary runs into some goons there, and she uses her sonic scream on them, and it's like very, very powerful. And she even makes a point to note like, "Oh wow, that's never happened before." Green Arrow is like somewhere else. People were playing with his arrows, and that doesn't go well for them. Superman can't control his heat vision. Naomi, I don't really, again, we don't know what Naomi's powers are. I realize I think this character has now existed for 2 years, and I really can't tell you anything about her and what she can do.
Are they
Okay?
like? Aren't they like light or
It's
something?
something to do with light. But that's the thing. So she actually there's this part in the book she's like calling for Superman, and Batman finds her and her hands are just glowing. And she's freaking out about it. She's like, "What's happening?" And he's like, "Oh, has that ever happened to you before?" She's like, "No." And then they just kind of like he's like, "Well, tell me if it happens again." And he's like, "How do your
Okay.
power?" And she's like, "I don't know. I'm still just figuring it out." And Batman even says something to her like to that effect. He's like, "These are new. You don't really know what you can do." And I'm like, "I don't think anybody knows what she can do." But the Bendis speak is also speaking very loudly in this issue,
Okay. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
very loudly.
That was why I had to end up getting off of Legion of Superheroes because the Bendis talk was like
The,
nobody would. You could put anybody in there.
yeah, like the Bendis speak is speaking here. So that's also a thing. And it just doesn't and it works for some characters. Like I really actually do enjoy his Superman. I think like it's a nice kind of earnest view. I think the villain of the story, Brutus, who's apparently supposed to be looking for Naomi or trying to basically take over Earth so they can bring the people from her dead dimension to planet Earth and live there instead. And he's like, okay, he sees that Superman and all of them are there, and he's like, oh, I was gonna have to go back and get you guys, but you all came here. I'm more powerful here apparently. So he beats down Superman. Black Adam comes in. He tries to help. He beats down Black Adam, and so the issue
Oh,
ends. Yeah, so the issue ends with like the rest of the league: Black Canary, Green Arrow, Naomi, Hawk Girl, who is like talking about how she feels great. She's almost tipsy because again the planet is affecting them in different ways. They're left to stand off against him, and that's where
that's all
that.
they got against him.
Oh, Aquaman is also in this issue. He is also on the team. Literally his page is like him. I don't know. He's like drooling. He's like muttering some nonsense. And then he passes out, and somebody walks over top of him, and like that's all we see of him in this issue.
Okay, what happened with Aquaman? Is he like MIA right now?
You know, his 80-year anniversary is this year, and so in August they're gonna have a 100-page special that comes out that's gonna have like a bunch of different writers on it.
Okay, that's nice.
Um, but we don't have like a book or anything, so
Oh, maybe they'll announce the solo for at the 80th.
we'll see.
It's weird that he wouldn't have a book out.
Right? That's like so odd.
Hmm.
But nonetheless, that issue ends. The JOD backup starts, and that's really good. Again, shout out to Ram V. It's like official. I'm
Stand.
a
Okay.
He just, and again, and we'll talk about it a little bit later when we get some of the other stuff he wrote today, because he wrote a couple books that came out this week. Um, he just he's telling so many different stories across so many different like genres of this medium. Like we've got fantasy, we've got horror, we've got like some thriller action stuff, and all the characters still feel extremely unique. The stories are distinct. Like I don't really feel like I'm reading the same book. I don't feel like I'm reading a book by the same man. It's just like it's great. And so this is kind of like the magic story that he's been telling with it. It's really fun. Ragman actually appears in this issue. He's like kind of joining up with the team now. He's fighting these monsters and stuff. Merlin is looking for a book to basically help him restore himself to power, and so the team is tracking him throughout. Again, Zatanna's going through some like confidence issues right now. I don't know what that's about. All my girls got confidence.
What's up? Your girls looking down bad right now.
I don't know what's happening. Like there's like after they fight, like Constantine tells her something about how she can like clean up the mess and like do everything that needs to be done, and she's like, I don't know, no John, you know I can't do that. He's like, what is wrong with you? He's like, he like legit answer. He's like, I don't know what's holding you back. He's like, but you need to get your life together. So I don't know what's happening there, but everything else in the story is like super interesting. I would give the main Justice League story a 3 out of 5. And really, it only gets a 3 because of Dave Marquez. Like his art is carrying.
His art is amazing. Yeah.
His art is carrying this book. Everybody looks good. Everybody feels great. I mean, like feels great in like how they move, I guess. But yeah, the story, no. The JLD backup, I'll give that like a 3.5 out of 5. It's just very short, so it's like, and he can only tell but so much. So when you're reading this one, like there are parts where you get kind of really groped into, and then it has to cut off. So it's like, this should have just been a book.
Yeah. I wonder what they're doing with all the. Are they doing anything with the Magic characters, or do you think they'll build towards a solo book?
I don't know. I mean, Justice League Dark is kind of weird. Like it's had like I've always felt the runs it had were successful. That's why there were so many. But I don't know. I don't know why we're doing this like backup thing. Well, next up on our list we have Catwoman 31. This is again from Ram V, and we have art from Blanca. Now, first of all, the art in this is banging. I'm a fan of this artist for real.
Okay.
The story itself. Are you reading Catwoman?
I'm not yet.
Okay.
I was in the beginning, but then I dropped off of it because I just got really busy. But I want to go jump back in.
So basically, in this one, the last issue, Selena found out that some people had kidnapped Poison Ivy, and they like had her locked up. So she goes to the place to rescue Poison Ivy. And so the first half of the story is kind of like a little bit of a heist story. She's telling the guy basically how they stole Poison Ivy from out of the auction right underneath their noses. Like she's using the kids who live in Alley Town, which is like the town she owns now.
Mm-hmm.
She's like has them acting as like waiters and servers and stuff at this little party or that they're at, and like they end up getting Ivy out of her tube, but like she's really messed up. They've done something to her body, so she kind of seems a little infantile, but she's also like extremely empathetic. Like when she talks to Selena, she gives her a hug and she's like, oh, I can feel that you're sad or that you have a broken heart right now. She's like, where's the bat? Some stuff like that, which is like really nice. I like the Selena Ivy friendship a lot, and I personally feel like it's one we don't see too often. We typically see Harley floating between those two a lot more than we do them just together. So I was like, oh, this is fun to see. I'm trying to think, like, it's great.
I need to jump into this because Selena, my girl, and I need to definitely jump into this.
It's good, and so like in the second half of the book, there's this other guy who's basically trying to take over however much of the town. And he's like getting the GCPD to do all this stuff and like clear all the riffraff out. So he sends this assassin to go and find Selena and Ivy. He's like, kill them. The guy who was leading the auction actually killed himself because he didn't want to have to answer to this dude. So he's like,
okay. He real bad. Okay.
His name's Simon Saint. So he's like scary. And the assassin, I don't know if you remember from the issue I told you about that had the honeycomb design with the hood.
Yeah. Cool.
She's the assassin, so she's coming back.
Oh snap! Okay.
Yeah,
Well, I
yeah,
gotta get
yeah.
into this there.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like really exciting. I'm like, oh, okay, this is a good book. There's also a person who's kind of like mysterious who like who's been helping Selena out from the shadows, and she asks him, she's like, people tend to help, they either need something or they're like a friend. You never know who you can trust. She's like, so do I trust you? Can I trust you? But when she looks behind her, he's gone. So it's a mystery right there.
Mm,
But it's good.
okay.
4 out of 5. This
Ooh,
is, yeah.
that's high.
This,
Okay.
this is a good book. This is a good book. Um, Next up on the list, oh, we had a new number one. Wonder Girl, number one, featuring Miss Yara, making her official DC debut after Future State, and it is both written and drawn by Joelle Jones.
Yes, yes. I definitely checked this out because I was a fan of Miss Yara
Yes.
and the Future State,
The
and
dog.
I I like this issue.
Okay.
Okay, first and foremost, like right off the top, just to get it out of the way, Joel Jones, the art is like,
Mm.
I mean, wow.
She was
I mean,
she
this
was
is,
hard.
yeah,
Like
it's
I don't.
it's beautiful.
There's no doubt in my mind that if I get a Joelle Jones book, that it's like not gonna look good. It's gonna look amazing.
Yes.
You could
Hmm.
tell like, and you could tell that she like knows, her art is good. She like, she's like, I know this looks good, and I know this looks good, so I'm gonna make it look even better. And it's just like, yeah,
That's
yeah,
my kind of flex.
okay.
I like that. Talk your shit. I the entire opening scene with these like Amazons from the Amazon, I'm assuming in Brazil,
Yeah.
and them fighting this god who I assume is Ares.
So yeah, I was thinking it was either Ares or Hades.
Yeah, it didn't really. I guess it probably didn't really matter because the point of that was to see just how like tough Yara has been since she was a kid.
I mean,
So
she people kill. She kind of stupid too.
that too,
It's not
you
stupid,
know,
reckless.
reckless. She's definitely a little bit of a reckless one. But I thought this was a pretty good first issue. You really set up, who the presence of Yara has kind of shifted things. So
Hmm.
like you see how like her debut and kind of being awakened, I guess you can kind of call it, has been impacted the entire like Amazon culture and
Yeah.
and all the other Amazons there. So you get on Themyscira, Queen,
Nubia.
Nubia.
I understand. You know,
Oh,
she fits the brand.
she
She
does.
she
She
fits
does.
the brand. She fits
She
the
does.
brand. She's
Yeah.
getting
Yeah. I do like Nubia a lot. I liked her in that Future State books that she was having there. There were a little bit of some millennial speak in there that I didn't really
it.
enjoy, if you will. But I wouldn't mind seeing some more Nubia because I mean, damn, she was she was giving in
She
this.
was given the tiara with the braids, and then I told you, she was in the Asian festival with the Trinity.
That's
Like
right. Yes.
she's
Yes.
moving on out. She's moving on out.
I'm not mad at it. And then we get some Mount Olympus stuff, and we see I forget which goddess it was. Hera? Yeah.
Yes.
Hera is reacting to Yara, as well as we see the uh Bana Migdal, which are
Yes.
the like more what's the word I want to use? Not murderous, but like
um,
you know, they're the Amazons are a little bit more about
yeah,
it.
that's where Artemis is from, and Grace Choi.
Oh, I
She's
didn't know
also,
Grace was from
yeah,
there.
she got that. That was something they revealed in the Outsiders, is that she's got some heritage in there as well.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I like the Band of McDowell, and
yeah. They
we,
look good.
they look real good.
Queen Faruka, the panel of her where they had like the first page of just them, and she was sitting on the throne, and it had the other two with the guns and the afros above her. I was
Yeah.
like, these are my kind of girls.
Yes, yes.
I was like,
Absolutely.
yeah. I was like, these are my kind of girls. I like
Yeah.
this.
if this is gonna be a lot of this, where they're mixing all of these different like Amazonian cultures, I think I'm going to really enjoy Wonder Girl. Um, yeah, so yeah, I thought this was a great first issue. We again see Yara. She's like going to Brazil to go in just to go and see it because no one's ever really let her go and see it, even though she's from there. She gets there, and of course, things go the wrong way because that's
Yeah.
how comic books work. And she ends up getting taken by a mermaid.
Who
So,
doesn't love mermaid?
right. I thought this was a very great first issue. I'm giving it a 4 out of 5. What did you think?
Okay. Um, I agree that I thought the art was like extremely beautiful. I do think that the story was lacking a little bit. I like what you said about, kind of mixing the different Amazonian heritage and like getting all of them. I also agree with that. I do kind of wish I would have had a little bit more meat to the story. Again, like Joelle Jones' art is beautiful, and you can tell that she puts a lot of work into the placements. But I kind of feel like the looming disaster, I didn't really feel the weight of it.
Okay.
Um, everyone's saying like, "Oh, something's happening," and it's just like, okay, well, what's happening? It's just like, are like things blowing up? Like, are people just like suddenly combusting? Like, what's going on? We just know like something's happening, um, and they're just walking around like, I feel it, like things are changing, something's happening, and it's again cool, but what? uh, but
Yeah.
again, it's the first issue, so I'm gonna see it through this first arc. Absolutely, I've said it before. This is a Joelle Jones stand account. She will always get the support from me and my coin, so I'm here. I'd probably rate it like a 3.5 out of 5. The story seems intriguing of what it could be, of what we're going on. Again, mixing the different ones. I like the art out of this world. I just want a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, but so next up, we're going over to the Marvel side for a little bit, and we've got Heroes Reborn #3. Now, first of all,
Okay.
I just realized I didn't realize. I don't know if I said last week. I didn't realize this was a weekly series. Um,
Oh, I didn't realize that either, I guess, until right now.
yeah, like no, that's what made me realize. I was like, oh, I'm on issue 3. I was like, I've read this every week, so I was like, okay, I'm into it though. This book is so good.
If you say so.
So let me tell you. So this issue is all about the Squadron Supreme member Blur. We have a guest artist, Federico Vicentini. Like he actually drew the Captain America and Winter Soldier book that I was reading.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, and he has art very similar to Matteo Scalera. Like that's who his style kind of reminds me of. Like it looks fantastic. Like the movement's fantastic. His backgrounds are fantastic. Like the characters are kinetic, and it was perfect for this one that he had. He has the Squadron Supreme member Blur, and he's like the super fast one. So he shows him like running through all these different things. Blur is interesting because imagine kind of a mix of the Flash,
Mm.
Doctor Strange, and like Iron Fist.
Okay. In
So it's like
personality? Okay.
and like a little bit of everything. So he is
Okay.
like this rich white guy. He can fight. He's like he has super speed, and he can like run through dimensions and like vibrate himself super fast, run back and forth through time, things like that. But it's also like all mystical based. So he has like these magic aspects to him as well. There's scenes. So his villain in this story is the White Witch, and she is Scarlet Witch with Quicksilver's powers and her own. So she has like these super fast hexes that run
Oh, okay.
at like she's like how are you gonna catch like she was like how, so there she's like chasing him. So because I guess basically Quicksilver died when he was fighting Blur, and so Wanda did something where she absorbed Pietro and like got his abilities. So she's like running at him super fast. She's like creating these little like magic chain weapons. She steals his soul out of him, and she's like, I've got your soul. She's like, so as long as you're like separated from this after a certain amount of time, like you're gonna fade away and die. And so he's like chasing after her, and it's like crazy. And it's like it just again the guy's art. It looks so good. So it's like you're
Okay.
just watching stuff, and it's like, yeah, this is given. Like this is like pure superhero fun, and it's like I love it. So eventually, Blur he kind of like catches up to Wanda, and she's like, you're about to die. She's like standing there calling him an arrogant pig, telling him like, she's like, die scum. She's like going off. She's like, the world's gonna be a better place without you.
All
So, right,
right.
like, and her outfit is green. So when the character thing first got revealed from Marvel, I actually thought she was gonna be like a mix of Wanda and Enchantress,
I thought that too.
but she's Wanda and Pietro, which is a little bit more fun, obviously. Um, so he does like something about like a meditation, and that's where we kind of see the character's mystic roots. And he like talks about like, I know I've read every book on magic, I know I've got to do this. And the guy's like, you need to like just sit down and like stay still. So he has to look at this flower for like 17 days, and that reminds him about his, just his resolve.
Hmm.
And he does whatever he needs to do. He beats Wanda, sends her back to prison. That's learning about the Blur. And so then the second part of the story, we return to, again, the heroes, the Avengers, who are going to basically undo this universe. And it's Blade and Steve Rogers. And we finally run back into Miss Echo. I'm sorry.
Oh, the Phoenix.
She's yeah. And McGinnis is still drawing this part of the story. But like we see her, apparently when she woke up in this universe, she was like in prison, and she doesn't really remember anything, but she knows that the world she's living in is currently wrong. But she's like using her Phoenix powers to kind of stop the inmates of the prison from like killing each other and things like that. And then Blade and Steve like come find her in the prison, and they're like, we're gonna need your help because you are the Phoenix. And like she's like, the Phoenix, there's this whole monologue about how the Phoenix is destruction, and that's why she's staying, because like she has to be like a savior, and the Phoenix would go do this and that and blah blah blah. So but they're like, the Phoenix burns away worlds, and they're like, we need this world burned away. They're like,
Make yourself useful.
so they're like, so you kind of need to come with us. So already this team of Avengers is probably the best one I've ever seen. It's got Steve Rogers, it's got Blade, it's got Echo, and then they're gonna run into Thor because his God power is activated in issue 2.
Well, this is a team. Did you make this team? That's what it sounds like.
I just, it's just like, this is good stuff. It looks
Okay.
good.
And do you
It's
feel like it's
fun.
starting to reach like a pretty good like climax? Okay, are you starting to see like where it's heading?
I mean, I feel like we kind of know where it's heading. I feel like it's got that basic Elseworld story. Everything's going to go back to normal. We'll probably get the Squadron Supreme in the main Marvel 616 universe, and they'll just like exist there.
Are you
And
liking them? Like,
I,
is this turning you into a fan of like the Squadron Supreme?
so I wouldn't say fan. Like, I don't think I would read like a book about the Squadron Supreme, but I am not opposed to like reading them in something like this.
Okay.
Um, or like when if they were like to guest appear in a book, I'd be like, oh, like it's the Squadron Supreme, they're cool. But maybe Blur. I don't know. This issue was kind of given. Like he was like, it was pretty cool. I don't like speedsters like that. Oh, and so that's actually one of the things. Like when the White Witch and Blur are fighting, she like says something to him. She goes, "No more speed," and so he like loses his super speed. I was like, oh, that's cute. I was like, I was like, that's fun. So we do. I didn't again like it's all leading to something called Heroes Reborn. No. Heroes Return, because this is
Oh, okay.
Heroes Return is after this, and that's like going to be the new Avengers and all that stuff. So,
Okay.
I give this issue, I guess, like a 3.5 out of 5. Yeah, yeah. Good stuff.
Okay.
Um, Next up on our list, Shang-Chi versus the Marvel Universe #1. Another new #1. We had, yeah, I think we had. No, I think that was the only two #1s. Did you read this?
I did not know.
Okay, so
I liked the mini that he had before,
yeah,
but I
the
wasn't sure if I
Shang.
wanted to get into an ongoing.
So this is Jingmu Yang, and the art is by Daika Ruin again. So they were also the people who worked on the miniseries together. So it's like it's fine. Like so, basically, the premise of the story is Shang-Chi is kind of getting into his role as the new Commander Supreme of the organization that his dad used to run, and they were like criminals beforehand, so he's trying to use them as a way to reform. His sister Dagger, is like running around with him stopping bad guys, and she's kind of saying, you are not really like into this the way you should be. Shang-Chi is on a date with some girl. She's like, you're going on dates, you're turning your phones off. She's like, we need to be doing things and like getting this organization under control and like making a difference or doing whatever it is you need to do. And Shang-Chi's like, oh no, I can do it. he's like, no, I gotta have a life. Like, I'm gonna go on dates. So while they're trying to stop a bad guy, they actually run into Spider-Man, and Shang-Chi is very apprehensive about like working with Spider-Man, because Spider-Man's basically like, oh, I'm looking for like this drug trafficking ring. They're like, oh, we're looking for like an armor organization. I mean, not an armor, but like a weapons ring. So he's like, oh, well, let's team up. And Shang-Chi's like, oh no, let's not, because Shang-Chi doesn't want Spider-Man to basically realize that he's in charge of this organization right now. And so
the little secret.
Yeah, nobody knows yet, because they're like bad guys. So he's like doing all these things. Spider-Man is like, oh, let me go and check the perimeter over here. And Shang-Chi's like, no, I'll go with you, because I don't want you to like see anything that might link this to me, or like let you know that I'm part of it. So they fight some people. It actually looks really nice. Again, I really like Dark Ruin's art. And then we get to kind of the climax of the issue, where the sister says something that pretty much lets Spider-Man know that like Shang is involved in this a little bit more than he's letting on. And the sister like goes off. She's like, I'm tired of you acting like you are embarrassed by your family, by what you're supposed to represent. She's like, or that you're embarrassed by me and who I am, because like this is who I am. And so I guess Shang has like that moment that's like, you're right. And he stands up and he's like, I'm the supreme commander of like this and that. All my people come in, they take the weapons, they leave. Spider-Man asks him, he's like, are you still one of us? He's like, are you still like a good guy? And Shang-Chi's like, oh, what does your spider sense tell you? And the issue ends. It's kind of gag.
Okay.
And so then the next issue, I think he's supposed to fight Captain America.
So is he going to be just going through like fighting a bunch of different people?
I think it's supposed to be kind of that, they're really trying to put Shang in a spot in the Marvel universe where he has like his own little corner. And so to do that, he's kind of got to fight everybody, because the organization, again, is typically known for bad things. So he's got to have his little like, everybody's against me before they can get with me moment. You know how Black Widow has one every year?
Yeah,
something like that.
Okay.
3.5 out of 5. I didn't honestly love Jean's voice for Spider-Man. But I'm also not, and I admit this freely, I'm not a huge Spider-Man fan, so I truly can't tell you what like a perfect Peter Parker is supposed to sound like. I would assume he's annoying. That's just kind of how I always like. I mean, not like annoying in a bad way, but like I've always read Peter as like a type of person. He's a little bit annoying. I didn't really get. I mean, he was, but like in a different kind of way, like in a bad annoying. Like, but I don't know. I'm not a Spider-Man fan. If there's a Spider-Man fan, please tell me. I could be completely way off. This could be a great Peter Parker.
Yeah, I would have to read the issue. I'm a half decent Spider-Man fan. I prefer Miles, but like I. Yes, Felicia's also great. Black Cat is great. And I think like I see what you mean by him being annoying, but like he's like endearing annoying. Was it that like that in the book, or like?
I mean, not really. It was. I don't know.
Whatever. It's not even his book.
Yeah, I'm not gonna see him again. I really. They did have like a nice little moment that kind of tied back to Spider Island, where Shang-Chi was basically asking him if he remembered, if he had still been practicing his martial arts, because Shang-Chi taught him martial arts during that whole time when he lost his spider sense, which is why at the end he was like, "What does your spider sense tell you?" And so that was a nice little callback. It was also kind of weird for Shang. I feel like Shang-Chi wouldn't really care what Spider-Man thinks.
I would think that too.
Like that's how I like would normally.
I've always saw him more of like as like the master kind of type. So like he doesn't really care what like a student of his would think of him.
Yeah, so it's very much like this is my job, this is what I have to do. Like I don't really care, but I also understand that like they're probably trying to make him a little bit more real.
Fair.
So I give it a 3.5 out of 5. I think again, if it's something that you're interested in, especially with Shang-Chi, check it out. There's not really too much to check out before that, so now is the time. um, Next up, the Mighty Valkyries #2, Jason Aaron, Garin Tron book. I will say I'm glad this book is only a mini series. It's 5 issues.
Oh, oh
Um,
no. I
so you know
thought
what
you were a
I've kind of
Valkyries
come.
fan.
So you know what I've come to realize. I don't think I actually like Jane as Valkyrie.
Oh.
um,
The bomb drop because you are such a big Jane fan, or at least you were.
I love Jane. I think the design is hitting. Like the Valkyrie looks great. I think the weapons are cool, but I don't know. It's just something that's not really clicking for me the same way that like her as Thor did. And I don't know. Maybe just because the way the Thor story was obviously handled, like it had different weight to it, like with the cancer and like turning in and like burning away and all that stuff like that. Um, this is I don't know. I don't know. The book is beautiful.
Clicking.
Matilda Lewis is again doing the arts, very nice style. Carnilla is like walking around. I'm getting like a little bit of an Asgard fix from that. We also have the new Valkyrie, Runa. She is out doing her own thing. She's like rescuing some oracle from some place and trying to find like her weapons. And the oracle's, it's cool. It's fun. It's fine. Again, I'm glad this is a mini series.
Do you think that this will be the end of uh, Jane's time as Valkyrie with this
I don't
mini?
know. I truly don't know. Like, and I think that's been one of my things like that I've been coming to terms with about Jane is the Valkyrie. It's like what is truly happening with it because I feel like at one point in time they're going to bring back all the original Valkyries and it's going to go back to Brunhild. And so then it's like, where's Jane going to go? Is she going to continue to be this Valkyrie? Are they once again going to try and like remake her into something else? Does she just go back to being the Doctor? And then they keep introducing like a newer version of the Valkyrie to kind of call back to Tessa Thompson in the Marvel universe. And
Right.
so it's like, who do you want to be your face of the Valkyrie at this point? Because it's not really working to me like having both of them because it doesn't feel like both of them. It feels again like kind of Jane's book, but the Runa is guest starring, but then at the same time you feel like Runa is being built up to be like where Jane is. And so it's just kind of like, what you gonna do?
Is that would you like that? With Runa taking over? I also kind of like that name. It's kind of cool.
I don't think I have enough of a connection with Runa to care. Like, I would be open to reading it, obviously, but I don't think I'm like. But I also, like I said, I'm kind of realizing I don't like Jane, so I'm not opposed to it.
Right.
So it's just kind of like, if it happens, it happens. Well, I don't like Jane's Valkyrie. Or I don't love it. But again, someone could change my mind. Maybe I'll change my mind by the end of this.
Yeah, keep sticking with it and see. It's only a mini, so.
Yeah, it is. But I'll give it a 3 out of 5 for sure. The art is gorgeous. Jane fights someone. Oh, Craven.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he pops up in the issue. There's this guy, Lion Pup. He has been freed by Carnilla, and he's like running around. And he's like, Jane tracks him down because he was killing people, but he says he was like defending himself from someone. And then we see that Craven has actually been hunting him. And so we get like some really nice scenes of Craven versus Jane and the Thing. Like Jane tries to stop him, and he throws a grenade into a crowd of people, so she has to like run down and try and get the people while he goes after the other guy. So that's really. Craven's always like a fun villain.
Yeah, he's fun.
Like, I'm into him when he pops up. Crazy, a fun guy.
Yeah, because he don't care.
Okay. So next up we have Daredevil #30. I know you're into this. I know this is your book. Chips the
This is the one.
This was so. before I even let you speak on your girl and like get all of that and do all of that, I will just say that I honestly, Elektra's cool.
Mm-hmm.
She's cool, but again, she's in that like I like to watch her do her thing. I wouldn't know if I was into her character like that, but I think this is finally the issue where I finally kind of like, oh,
Come on, you're seeing it. You're
like
seeing it.
like you might be my kind of girl, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so shout out to this team for doing that. Her training the little girl, I was all about that.
You know what? It's very rare that I ever hear you talk about you liking it, a lot of my faves. So I'll take it.
Mhm,
You know,
mhm.
I will definitely take it. I'm glad that you're seeing the greatness that is Electra Nachios and what she can bring in this book. And I, like you said, I've been loving it. I'm not even gonna like be standing too crazy on it because I already know what I'm gonna say. Um, Electra is truly giving in this, and you're getting the character that I love, and that is the she knows exactly who she is and what she's about, and um, I've been enjoying seeing her walk this path of being the of Daredevil and how she wants to be Daredevil versus
Yeah.
how Matt is. You know, she bought the entire all of Hell's Kitchen.
Okay.
um, Stole the
Um,
money, bought all of Hell's Kitchen. She's been training this girl again. I don't. I feel like that girl got de-aged over the course of these like 2 books.
so I actually was about to say I felt like she got a little bit older. Cause I would like when she was like training her, I was like, how old is this little girl supposed to be? I don't feel like she should be getting trained right now. But I mean, I guess the younger you start, the better. Yeah, no, she should be training her right now.
When they first, yeah, for sure. This is
Yeah,
about the time when Electra started, so that's
yeah.
probably when she started to train her. I did also really like when she looked at the girl and she was like, you know, when I was her age, I was also going through something similar.
Mm.
And if you haven't, there's an Electra solo book that is, it came out in like 2011, I feel like. I can't think of who the writer was for it. Really good stuff, and you really get more into it's more modern. So I know people prefer like something more recent, and you really get more into the mind of Elektra, which is like she has some mommy issues because her
Mm.
mom died, you know, when she gave birth to Elektra. She's obviously also got daddy issues because of seeing her dad die,
Don't we
and
all?
child. Don't we all? And yeah, so I definitely highly recommend that. And in this issue, we see the more of her personality and stuff. And I know that sometimes Elektra can kind of fall into the cool girl thing,
Mm.
but I've been really enjoying Zdarsky really pulling out and showing her uh, personality and
Mm.
who she is as a character.
Yeah.
In this, we see her in the club with that is having this like rave or whatever.
Mm.
And she is going to pretty much take down this new crime boss of Hell's Kitchen, who is he technically his illegitimate son? Does
I
he? I
think
don't
so.
know. I haven't read a lot of Daredevil before this solo run, so I don't know if Kingpin knows that this son like exists and that he's out there.
I have to go back and double check. I think I have that right.
I don't know if that's a thing
Introduced.
or not. But I found it interesting that he becomes like this like pseudo kind of king or whatever, and Elektra has to fight off his bodyguard, and she says something which I thought was amazing, which was this fight would have been over if I could have just gutted him. And
Mm-hmm. And she's like, I gotta play by Matt's stupid rules.
right, but I easily could have just killed him and been done with this. Um, and she tries to fight the guy off and has to use her fighting skills so she doesn't like kill him, and then of course he ends up getting shot, but it was
Mm.
by Alice, the little girl who she's been training. And now Alice is like probably gonna have to deal with the pressures of now being someone who's killed someone, whereas
Mm.
Elektra, like, she's used to that and
Yeah.
hasn't had to deal with any kind of those kind of emotions in a while. So it's gonna be interesting to see her talk to this girl and try to see how she helps her out, especially now that we find out that after the guy gets killed, he fades away. So
Yeah.
a part of the hand.
Yeah. The hand's always involved. And that panel at the end, like where she figured out that it was the hand who was like doing that, fantastic. I
Amazing.
like it
Yeah.
was a good art week. It was definitely a really good art week for comics.
Michael
I
Chitoto is really good.
I don't even care about what's going on with Matt and Mike and all that stuff. Like I truly don't.
I, this, after I read this, I was like, am I going to stay on this book when Elektra leaves? I don't know.
I was just like, yeah. What would you rate it?
um, this will also be a 4 out of 5 for me.
I would
This
agree.
is a really great issue. The art is fantastic. The electric characterization is great. Um, the like I don't care about the stuff that Matt's dealing with, but it is interesting to see him go through this jail and like how he is with dealing with his sentence and stuff. So that's interesting. Great book.
Okay, I agree. All right. Up next on our list, oh, this was a very exciting one we have today, is Wolverine number 12. So, this is like Percy. I know I've been a little up and down on this Wolverine book. Okay?
Same. I dropped it.
Um, but it's got Wolverine and vampires. It's the
Okay.
best comic I've ever read in my entire life. Um, I will say though, I will say, I had a conversation like on Twitter with a couple people one day. We were kind of talking about Wolverine in general
Mm.
and how while we love Wolverine, there's kind of this feeling with him and his stories right now where you almost want him to take a break. Like he is the man who has done it all. He's the best there is at what he can do. What next? And so, we have Laura around, we have Dawkins around, Gabby's around. I think it would be really interesting if he kind of like brought his kids into this run and he just took on like that backseat drunken master role and like let them. He's Charlie, they're his angels, and like let them go out and be the
I
ones in
love
the field.
that.
Yeah, maybe bring in Amiko, the human stepdaughter he has with Yukio. Um, but that's neither here nor there. This issue, he is still very much in the mix. and, and we're getting back to the vampire plot. Dracula has been trying to take Wolverine's blood to power himself for the vampires and like make it so they can walk in the sunlight and do all of these other things. He has the girl Louisa, who is a part of the Night Court, who's like been defeating vampires all these years. But of course, they are corrupted, and one of them turns into a vampire. Wolverine takes her back to Krakoa, and he gets with Forge because she got infected by the vampires as well. So he has Forge make her a like Krakoan biosuit that is going to protect her from the sunlight.
Oh,
And
okay.
it has a helmet attached to it, and it has something in it that's basically going to produce uh, blood cells for her, so she won't have to feed on people.
Okay.
And then he gives her a UV sword. It's giving
The sword
like
probably looks cool as shit.
and if it's one thing Wolverine's good for, it's giving a homegirl a nice suit of armor. Because you know who else he did that for?
Mm.
One Miss Betsy Braddock when they were running around the Outback. He got her that like little purple suit with the hood and
With the
yeah,
hood.
yeah.
It's a classic.
Um, so that's going on. Basically, Omega Red has like had it with the vampires. He's tired of being their pawn, so he comes up to the team. He's like, Dracula is planning to do all of this stuff. He needs your blood for it. I want to be free. He's like, Krakoa says it's for all mutants. It's about having a second chance. Like, I want that for myself. Let's do it. And of course, Wolverine is like, I don't trust you. And then Omega Red is like, I've been under Dracula's thumb. And Wolverine's like, let's hear what he's got to say. So they come up with a plan. They have this one scientist who's been working with Dracula to help synthesize Wolverine's blood. He creates a clone body of Wolverine. The five gene edit the body so it basically like feels like Wolverine. It looks like Wolverine does what he does, but the blood is infected and it basically creates its own UV energy. And
Huh.
so when Dracula like gives it to all of the vampires, they start dying.
Mm.
And so we see that happen. Then Dracula like runs off. He's like, you may have beaten me this time. He's like, but we'll see who'll come out on top. The scientist dies. They go about their day. We actually go to Sevalith, which appeared in X of Swords, the vampire nation over back in the other world, and they say we need help because the vampires are getting stronger, and we need someone to kind of fight them. And the Sevalith vampires are supposed to be different from normal vampires. Like they're smarter. They have their own culture. They actually have like found a way to birth their own babies. And
Oh.
guess who's leading these people now? If you
So,
remember X of Swords, Death.
oh snap. Okay.
Yeah, so Death is like leading this vampire nation. So they're like, "Will you help us fight Dracula's army?" And he's like, "If you're talking about Death, of course I'll help you." And the
That's
issue
kind of. I
is,
didn't know they were gonna bring him back around. Okay.
okay, especially not in Wolverine.
Yeah.
Like
Okay. Maybe
it
I
was
gotta pop back in there.
it was like it took, I won't lie, it took a while to kind of like get to it, especially if you're not a vampire person. I love vampires, so
I
I
am
was
not.
like with it all the way. But I like love the way that they tied that in, and it also kind of made me think about just the connectivity of the Marvel universe and like the X books and all the books in general. Like to know we've gotten here from like when Percy first introduced the vampires into this story. And it's like how long have they known, X of Swords was going to go along? How did, long did they know that the vampires and Severus were going to be a thing? Did they make the vampires and Severus specifically for this? It just opened, so it was just a very interesting callback for me. I loved
Hmm.
it. I would give this issue a 3.5 out of 5. Good art,
Okay.
again, a really nice wrap up to the story. The death popping up, Severus coming back. Of course, that was the nation I wanted to go back to, and all of the other worlds. So I'm here. Um, I'm with this one for sure.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Check that out,
And
y'all.
check it out. Next up, oh, this is a really good one. Way of X #2 from Simon Spurrier and Bob Quinn. This is an incredible book. I think I've tweeted this multiple times by now, actually. Like, this is an incredible book, but it's like, it's not shocking. It has nothing but incredible characters: Nightcrawler, Legion, Dr. Nemesis, Pixie, Dazzler. What? It's just hit after hit after hit after hit after hit.
I don't know about all of them.
Great.
I don't
This
know if
is
I would go
great.
that far.
This is excellent. Um, Legion's around. We find out that Orcus has his brain, and he's basically convinced Nightcrawler to form a little team. They go to save him. It consists of Doctor Nemesis and Pixie, and like they go into the brain and they like see all his personalities fighting, and Nightcrawler kind of has to finally realize that Legion's got to die, so he shoots the brain. He shoots the brain, and they rebuild Legion's new body on Krakoa. He is now officially on Krakoa, and he kind of makes a comment about how the voices in his head have subsided a little bit because of this new body. He's like, it's the new brain. It's going to take them a long time to get along. So I guess that's supposed to be our cue that he's a bit more in control than he's been in the past.
Mm.
Xavier, of course, has like an Xavier moment where he originally wasn't going to restore his memories after he came back because he's like, you know, whatever. And Legion's like, I'll do it myself because he's a what? Omega level mutant.
That is true. He woke
He's,
up out of his body, and Xavier's like, I can't do it. I just can't. I can't bring Legion back because of how unstable he is and everything that we've built. And Legion was like, I'll do it my damn self. I don't need you.
It's exactly how it is. Magneto tries to get him to help with something. Planet X, it seems like. I'm very excited for that, actually.
Yeah.
But Legion's like, no, I don't trust you either. He's like, no, you and Xavier are like hiding some stuff. I'm gonna hang out with Kurt for a little bit, and then that
Kurt
blood
Honest.
starts. And I love that. I love this book. I'm into it.
Yeah. I like this book. I don't know if I love it yet. I do like the questions that are being asked about it, about the Krakoa. And I like Nightcrawler. I don't know if I want to read a whole book about him.
What?
Um, yeah.
Nightcrawler? The Nightcrawler? You wouldn't read a book about him?
Not an ongoing.
Oh wow. Okay.
No, not him by himself. And this team, I'm not that drawn into. I like Dr. Nemesis. He was kind of funny. He had some moments. The art I wasn't too into. I think it's the coloring I'm not the biggest fan
I
of.
think the art's, it's fine. Like it's a
Yeah,
story.
right.
I don't think it's like necessarily spectacular. I don't think it's bad in any way, shape, or form. Like it is fine.
Right. Yeah, so like the team, I'm not that into. You know, Pixie, Dr. Nemesis, all the rest of them. But I'm into the story, so I'll stick with it and see what's up. I like the end of who is coming. I'll try not to spoil that. I only like that because of it gives them something to fight. and I've been kind of missing some action from the Krakoa era. So it would
Yeah,
be nice
absolutely.
to at least just have them out there, even if it's like a dumb villain from the 90s.
Hmm.
I'm totally fine with that because at least we'll get to see them do something.
Yes, 100%. What would you rate this book?
I give it a 3 out of 5.
A 3 out of 5? Okay, I would give it. I give it a 3.5 out of 5
Okay.
for sure. I, the art is just kind of.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I like I said, the story for me is it's all right, and I'm not too into the team, but who knows? Maybe it could change my mind. I'm not mad at this. I'm not mad at the writing per se, just not that into it.
Okay. All right. And so the final book up on the list, I finally caught up with this: The Many Deaths of Layla Starr, #2. So
Ooh,
I'm gonna go through this like really quickly for you because it's like really good, and I actually like genuinely want you to read this book because I think you'll really like it. I'm gonna tell you a little bit
okay.
about the first issue too. So basically, the first issue starts with this girl who's like jumping out of a window to like kill herself, and trigger warning, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Okay.
and we see like the Indian gods, like death, the ones of fire, and so basically they take death into this room and they let her know you've been with us like for centuries. You're fired. We're letting you go because there's a child that's about to be born that is going to create everlasting life. He's like going to create immortality. So the girl who jumps out the window, Layla Starr, when she passes away, death as like no, she's no longer needed and she's no longer a god. They put her into that human body, and so like that becomes the thing. Like when you're not needed as a god anymore, you just go live to be immortal. And it's like,
Oh, okay.
yeah. And so she's like very upset about having to now be in this mortal body, and like this little boy who's born to like make her obsolete. So she runs to the hospital that, well, she wakes up in the hospital that he's also born in. She goes to go and kill him.
Okay.
She's like, cause she's like, how, and it's funny because she runs into this ghost, and the ghost is like, how can you see me? And she's like, I used to be a god. Like, I got some like extra stuff going on. And so she's like, I'm gonna go kill this baby that was just born. And so the ghost is like, you're gonna kill a baby because you lost your job? And Death is like, yes. um, and so the issue ends with like she gets the baby. His name is Darius, and she like can't bring herself to do it because she has all these new human feelings and emotions and all of this
Mm,
stuff like that. And while she's holding this baby, like all the police and doctors and stuff come in because again, this body, this girl who they had just pronounced as dead like 20 minutes ago, is now up and walking around with the baby in her hand. So she like manages to get away, but as she gets away, she gets hit by a bus.
oh, jeez.
So it's
Okay.
like, yeah. So they tell the story about like Layla Starr, the girl who like died, lived, and died again. She wakes up again, and we see another one of the gods has like revived her. He's like, oh, I know it. He knows she's dead. He's like, all this stuff, blah blah blah. He's like, I brought you back because he likes her as a person, I guess. And uh, we find out that it's 8 years later, and he's like, if you're still looking for that kid, he's not a baby anymore. That's where issue one ends. And so now we get to issue two, and she's like kind of deciding if she actually wants to go after this little boy. And she meets this crow who like she starts talking to. He talks about how he carries souls of the dead. So through fate, she runs into the little boy Darius again, and Darius is kind of we this issue we meet Darius himself, and he's talking about like how he's experiencing death for the first time with basically like the family's helper who was very nice to him and like helped him learn a lot of things and took him through all these paths, and like now he's passed away, but the family can't go to the funeral because of just like whatever their traditions are, their values, and so the little boy Darius at 8 years old runs away to go to this funeral, and there he runs into Layla Starr, and she's like, "Oh, you're the little boy." She realizes him, but she loses him. They have like this cute, they have a nice little deep conversation just about kind of like life and death and what it means and like growing and all this stuff. And she loses him, and she goes into the water. But while she's in the water, all the like spirits, I guess, of people who she had taken while she was dead, because they also know she's dead, like grab her and take her underneath, and they drown her.
Okay. So then she dies
so,
again.
so she dies again, and the end of the issue wakes up, the god has once again revived her, and he tells her, he's like, look, I can't keep doing this because the people upstairs are going to get mad, and we find out now that it's 12 years later. So the boys
Oh,
die. No,
an additional 12 years or 12 years from
and an additional 12 years.
Oh, okay.
So
Like
like,
grown.
yeah, so he's like an adult now, and so that's the whole thing. It's like he hasn't actually created immortality yet. He's going to do it when he gets older, and so that was like her whole thing of why she had to kill him while he was a baby. And so like now she keeps losing all this time, so he's getting closer and closer to when he's going to figure out how to make it. Really good story. Ram
Ooh, I
B,
think I might have to check this out. That sounds
it
good.
it's really good. Like Ram B, like
Huh.
he's killing it.
Okay.
Like
How's the art?
I had the art's beautiful. It's a very artsy style. I don't know if like that's the best way to explain it. But it's I'm trying to think of people who was like similar. Have you ever seen like kind of Leslie Hung's art or not Fiona Staples, Ming Doyle?
Wait,
Have,
I've seen Ming Doyle. Yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
so it's kind of following along those lines. Felipe Andrade, I believe is the artist's name. Felipe
Hmm.
Andrade. Um, Looks great. Love it. There's a panel. So when Layla actually is dragged underneath the water by the ghost or whatever, or the sea demons, the crow actually comes to save her. And she's like, the crow like dies and you see it carrying her away. And she's like, oh my God, thank you for saving me. And the crow's like, saving you. He's like, I told you I carry souls of the dead away. And she's like, yeah, she's like,
I think I'm gonna check this out.
yeah. It is really good. I like bought the first issue. I just never sat down and had time to read it. And then the second issue came out this week. So I was like, let me read both of these right now. I'm ready for number 3.
Okay.
It's cool. It's cool.
Okay. I might jump in for number 3 then and go back and read those first two because this actually sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah. Um, but those are the comics of the week.
Yeah.
Guys, let us know what you read, what you thought, what was popping. Yeah, we'll go ahead and take a break and we'll come back for another panel.
Let's do it. All right, so what's up? Welcome back for another panel. This week, we are going to be talking about comic book crossover events. So, um, when we say crossover events, I mean like, company wide, not just the character specific events or something that maybe only affects a type of corner of a comic publisher, but we mean like company wide. So I wanted to talk about what our top 5 favorites were, some of our least favorites, and what exactly even makes an event. So
Okay.
let's kick it off with what exactly makes an event for you, Keenan? Like what does an event need to have, a crossover event for you need to have?
It needs to have big action.
Mm,
It needs to have like world changing events. And it needs to pretty much encompass the entire Marvel universe. Like it has to affect them, everyone in some type of way. And I think that's like what you kind of say with these character specific events. You could think of something like Age of Apocalypse, which I think is a fantastic event, but it only affects the X-Men. So
yeah.
it's kind of like as opposed to something like Siege.
You didn't like
Did you like Siege?
Shady. I
Oh,
I liked it, I think I liked Siege.
what was it about?
Wasn't it when Asgard fell,
Oh,
right? And Ares got ripped in half by a century.
oh,
And Thor returned from Asgard, I think. I think I liked it.
okay.
It's been a while since I read it. Clearly. But I think I liked it.
Okay.
Okay, so you need big action, and when
Hmm.
you say world turning event, do you mean like the scale of it is so big, or do you just mean like the impact of it in the universe is big?
Well, I
Okay.
think to be a successful event, I think you actually have to, and we'll talk about this a little bit later on our reread, but Civil War kind of changed the landscape of the Marvel universe for like
Oh
at
yeah.
least at least a good decade. We're honestly kind of just now coming out from the like effects of Civil War and like what it did to the superhero community throughout the Marvel universe. I think to be a successful event, that is what you have to do. Um, of course, and again, we'll get into that later. But the writing might not always be there in the actual event because, again, I think the big point of it, and we talked about this when we reread World War Hulk, is to give you like the big action. Like you want to see like it's a movie. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? You want to see like a lot of stuff happening, so you don't really get a lot of that.
Show me where the budget went.
Okay. But that's why we have 7 million tie-ins for the rest of the universe, is because that's where you're going to get this nuance from everybody else, because again, this event is affecting everybody. I think once you kind of cut that off and you have it only affect a certain group of people, it doesn't really work anymore, because these are supposed to be shared universes. So if these heroes are supposed to be friends and like confidants and partners in the way that they said they are, there is really no reason why when Nimrod or whoever is Bastion is attacking the X-Men and Messiah complex, that the Avengers aren't also there.
Ugh. And I just have to say that event almost made my list because A Second Coming is truly one of my favorite Marvel events. But again, like you said, it only affects the X-Men. Like no one else was even involved in that story. So
Although I honestly though I think there was a panel of like the Fantastic Four or somebody trying to break through or like trying to get through. So shout out to them for that. But you get what I'm saying, like in the
yeah,
photos. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, yeah, I think for me too that the action for it has to be bombastic, but not in a way that feels cheap.
Mhm.
I do need it to just be bigger than what I would normally get in probably the solo stuff.
Do you need there to be a character death?
No, not
Okay.
necessarily. Nobody has to die. And that's the hero or villain side. I don't need a death per se. I do need some meaty fights.
So be
I
fair.
need some
And
powers.
and I think that's always kind of going to be like the crux of an event, is that even now when I've been going back and looking at some other ones that I really enjoyed when I was younger or for whatever reasons, I like see it. I'm like, oh, this actually isn't that good, but like it's like fun. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Like, and when I read something, I was reading Civil War. And it's just like there's some bad things that happen in it, but it's like, yeah, like Captain America's kicking ass. Like this is great.
Yeah.
Um, but thinking of something else, I want to say Civil War Two.
Oh. Yeah.
You know, where the writing kind of falls flat, and even the action, while the Civil War Two looked good, like I'm thinking about it, there wasn't really a whole lot of action in that book. Like there were a couple of fights here and there, obviously, but like the entire point of the book was them trying to prevent everything that happens. And I think what you just said about the action being bombastic but not feeling cheap, I think that was an example of the action feeling cheap, because you don't really remember anything specific about like who fought. Like when I read Secret Empire, like I can tell you like moments that like really stuck out to me. When I read something like Messiah Complex, I can like remember those moments that stuck out to me. When I think of Civil War Two, I remember. Actually, no, I remember Carol.
I knew it was coming.
I remember. Not only do I remember Carol trying to arrest the young Miles Morales, but I also distinctly remember her and Storm shit talking the Black Panther. That
You know,
moment is embedded in my brain.
yeah, we'll talk about Civil War 2 shortly, I'm sure. But I, I, I'm glad that you understand what I meant by like the action and stuff not feeling cheap, and but still feeling like it's just some weight to it, you
Yeah.
know. Um, so yeah, for me, I do need that action in it. I need the crossovers to not feel infinite. you know because I do think that while some books can have some crossovers and you can have a few like new like mini series that come out of stuff, sometimes I
Yeah.
think some events have entirely too many like mini series and things that
Do
are
you
attached.
do you have a preference of like when there are big events? Do you like a separate mini series that you have to buy, or do you not mind when it ties into the regular ongoing series?
um Okay, so technically I don't mind if it ties into the regular series because on my list of my favorites that we can get into in a bit, I do have a few that I just go through the books.
Yeah.
But I do think that I actually would prefer it to be a separate
Okay.
event in it and maybe more of a hybrid thing where there is like kind of like Civil War, where there is the main event and the other books across the line tie into it. So then the tie-ins, you see how the main event would affect them, you know? And if you
Yeah.
want to read the main event, you can. If you want to skip the tie-ins, you know it's just your character or that character anyway, reacting to the event.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think I prefer it to just have a little bit of both. Separate
Okay.
book and tie-in issues.
Okay.
What do you
So
think?
I like a main book, obviously, but again, I think that a lot of times now, especially now in the current age of comics, is when we have the main book, I don't think the main book carries the weight of the story that it used to. I think it has like a lot of the fun stuff, which is great, but I think to be kind of a successful event, you have to be able to make me care about the story I'm reading or the characters that are in it. I don't want to just read this and be like, oh, okay, like now I also have to go and read Captain Marvel 28 to find out how she actually feels about this issue that's going on right here because they can't actually discuss it for whatever reason. So I kind of like it to be all condensed in one because I also don't really care for tie-ins. I don't think a lot tie-ins are hard to do for some people. I feel like you're
Yeah,
going to derail the main story that you're already telling. It doesn't always gel well with. I think King in Black was a perfect example of that, of something that just kind of infested all of the books and and threw things off of their trajectory. And the ones who made it work, like it was fine, but it was also unneeded. And it was just like, why did you have to kind of come over here and like mess up what I got going on with whatever you have over there? It's like, no, just leave that alone. Like keep that in your book. So I think that's my thing.
yeah.
Don't
I think
tie it.
some events probably need to have a little bit more of a streamline of which a books should tie in and how they would get affected. But I feel like King and Black was something that they probably wanted to affect a lot more books than it should have. Um,
It was
and
something.
I feel like that's probably a little bit of an issue with some crossover events and not being able to reel it in when it comes to what they want to have
Yeah.
affecting. So let's get into then, now that we
Mhm.
know what we kind of consider an event and what we like in events, what
Mhm.
are your top five favorite events?
Okay.
You don't have to go in that order if you
Okay.
don't
Oh,
want
okay.
to.
Good. That
I'm
takes
not
out
going to either because I couldn't, but like, what are your
the
top five?
Okay. So I don't know if these are like. I don't know if this one's considered an event, but Dark Reign. No, that's considered an
Okay.
event. I think that. Let me just say that kind of like Marvel was on fire for
That
like
was an era.
they had a nice little streak from around the time of like Civil War started to like House of M to a couple of other things, Heroic Age, Utopia, Dark Reign, just great stuff. And I think Dark Reign was one of those things that like really did well for Marvel in the fact that you felt the weight of it, the stakes of it, and these villains being in charge of everything felt very real. Seeing the heroes on the run, it was kind of like a ragtag time, and then seeing them kind of rise above all of that. And I think it was something that actually fit in every single book because every book has a villain,
Right.
and so it's like there's always someone that you could have to like kind of take over that spot or like do the other things that the heroes couldn't do anymore. So like Dark Reign is quite possibly one of my favorite things in the Marvel universe that they've ever done. Second up on my list is House of M. Like I just said, again, great era for Marvel. I think House of M is one of those things where again you felt the weight of it. House of M does kind of falter because that's one that I feel like a lot of the meat of the story was done in like side books,
Yeah.
and the main event was very beautiful to look at.
Yeah.
That Clefairy art was out of
It's
this world.
also wild that that is a Scarlet Witch event, but she's barely in it.
I think they technically consider it more of a X-Men Avengers event now.
Okay, that's what it should be.
Yeah. uh, and so like, but again, I think that's another one that like really had repercussions. Again, we are really just coming out of that. The end
Yeah.
of event of everything when the Hoxpox era started and Hickman came in. Switching over to the DC side, an event that I really love is Brightest Day.
Also on my list.
Everybody knows Blackest Night and like what it did and like the Black launches and all that, but I think what came after for Brightest Day and like rebuilding a lot of those characters was just like phenomenal. Definitely deserves. So I have this one on my list, but now that I'm looking at it, I don't know if it actually counts. It's Throne of Atlantis.
Oh, okay.
I didn't also realize how like current so many of these were, but hey, when you're hot, you're hot. Uh, Throne of Atlantis was like a big DC event that happened in the Justice League book featuring Aquaman. Obviously, Orm gets Atlantis to attack and everything like that. It's something that happens a lot. It like was in the main JL book, but like DC events can be weird in the sense that they affect everyone, but they also don't affect everyone.
Right.
So like you'll see like this one book have this like really big bombastic event going on and they're telling you how important it is and all of these other things, but like you could read any other book and it's nowhere to be found. Or you can have another event like Brightest Day, which genuinely does take over the entire line and you never see the end of it. So it's like, but they still consider them the same kind of event because those repercussions will still be felt even though you don't actually see anybody doing anything about it. But again, that's their whole like weird time stream. So I have Throne of Atlantis on my list. I don't know if it counts, but it's on there. And my last one is my top 5 is Secret Wars.
Yes. Okay.
Secret Wars. I mean the revival was good too actually.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna combine those two. Those are another ones that I just think were really good. Felt the repercussions of them. Changed the game around a little bit. You got to have fun with the alternate universe and some of the aspects. Good time. Those are my 5.
Okay. Let me give you my 5 and then we can get into them and see which ones that we liked and everything. So this is in no order. Again, this is kind of hard to place in order. But one of my favorites is Operation Galactic Storm. Yeah, I think it was like yeah, it's one of Marvel's like earliest crossover events, and this one didn't have a like a separate book and tie-ins. It just ran through like 20 issues or something like that of books across like a couple months. So I think it started in like a Captain America book, and then the next issue was in like an Iron Man book, and then the next one was in a like a Quasar book or something like that. So like it followed. Yeah, it was all about space. Just to give people a little bit a background on it, it was the Kree and the Shi'ar is the Kree-Shi'ar War.
Okay.
So the Kree and the Shi'ar were using this like warp gate near Earth's sun, and the more that they were using it, it was gonna like cause Earth to blow up or something like that. And always. So the Avengers sent 2 teams to try to talk to the Kree and talk to the Shi'ar. But then they find out that the Shi'ar were collecting Kree artifacts because they were going to build a bomb to blow up the Kree. Yeah, they like were going to use their own weapons against them and blow up the Kree. It's a whole thing. And like the 2 teams are separated. They try to talk them down. The bomb ended up going off. It's a really good story and a crossover event because everybody's in it. This is also the start of the feud between Captain America and Iron Man because there's a decision that it has to be made in the book where they have to decide if they're going to kill someone. And Iron Man's team, along with Cersei, Wonder Man, Hercules, they were all like, yes, let's kill this thing. But Captain America was like, no. Captain America, Monica Rambeau, like they were all like, no, we shouldn't kill him. But they did it anyway. So that was like the start of like their like butting heads. And obviously we see what happens later in Civil War. So I've always really liked that event. It's got everything I like in it. It's in space. This is also where this is the event where Wonder Man gets to like his powers become what we know they are today with the energy blast and all that stuff. So uh, I loved it.
I don't know that today.
My other event on my list is Infinity by
Okay,
Hickman. I really, really enjoyed
that was a
that
good one.
event a lot, and it was company wide. It had its
Mhm.
own separate event and lots of tie-ins. It was also the thing that was going to kind of, I think it was supposed to usher in the age of like the Inhumans or something like that. I wasn't too much into that part, and obviously we see what happened there, but the
That
story was good. Yeah. And then like you had, I do have Brightest Day and Blackest Night on here. I kind of combine those two stories because I mean,
yeah, I
Greenland
mean,
classic.
yeah.
um, I also have Secret Wars on my list as well. I liked Secret Wars a lot as a kid. It was
Mhm.
like I think it was the first crossover event I read when I was like, I don't know, 10, 11 or something like that.
Okay.
My dad put me onto it. Yeah, he loved it and like wanted me to read it, obviously. And I remember really liking all of the characters together because since this
Mhm.
was my first time ever reading a crossover event, I had never seen like all those different characters all like kicking it together and like trying to
Yeah.
figure out how they're gonna work together. And then you had all the villains too on their side
Mhm.
work. So like Magneto's in it and
Mhm.
um Doom and all that. I thought it was great. And at the time, I really enjoyed it. I need to reread it now as an adult and see if I still love it. But
Mhm.
I liked it when I was
Okay.
younger for sure. I also did like the Hickman 2015 Secret Wars because that was also really, really good. Great showing for the Fantastic Four in that one. Um, and then last was Infinity War.
Okay.
I didn't realize until right now that a lot of mine are all cosmic.
Uh, are you shocked by that?
I guess
I don't
I
feel.
didn't realize that until right now. Looking at this list, I was like, oh shit, I guess they are all in space. Or like,
Yeah. Yeah, that tracks for you.
yeah.
You
Can't help it. Um, but I will say that I tie in Infinity War and Infinity Gauntlet together. I liked it the
I like
most.
the Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah, I did. I think I liked War a little bit more than Gauntlet, but that whole like story was great.
I should have put Secret Empire on my list.
Ooh, shake the table. I
I like
liked Secret Empire.
it was good. It was given, and it was a great moment for Sam and like King of Speeches. He was like really giving. He was really rallying the troops. The way the heroes came back and beat that fake Captain America. It came out at a very divisive time. Like there was a lot of like Trump pro
Yeah,
Trump stuff going on, and I think a lot of people were kind of seeing it in their comics and seeing it in real life, and it was like one of these got to go. And like the comic is probably the one we feel like we can control the most. So it got a lot of backlash from that. There were also people who were just kind of like taking it. I won't lie, they were taking it to a bit of the extreme, saying like, "Oh, secret empire type stories is like what's fueling these people to be racist," and it's like. Baby, like I can guarantee you, this comic book is not what is fueling these racist people to be racist.
I
Like
agree.
Steve Rogers being like turning into a Nazi because he's been brainwashed or like cosmically rewritten by a cosmic cube does not wake someone up one day and say, "Oh yeah, I can hate everybody too." Like that was already there. But again, like I get it. It's like there's one that I can like choose to actually not see. So, but I like Secret Empire. It was great.
I liked it too. I enjoyed it. It was a really good story and very well written, and the art was great. Um,
Beautiful art, like really good stuff, like great things happen in there. The whole like I don't even really like Cloak and Dagger like that, but the whole thing of like Dagger being the one thing that was lighting up the city when they were covered in darkness all that time, sister was working. It
it
was
was great. Oh, they were
Carol.
fine. Are they mutants again?
No, for a little bit they were, but they got retconned really quick. It was like I don't know. They just Carol even had like a nice moment in Secret Empire because
She
I
did.
remember that was after Civil War Two,
Yeah, yeah.
and a lot of people hated her,
It
and
was
she had
down
like a
bad.
moment. I was down bad. okay? Like bad. And it was like the moment with the Quasar girl, and she was kind of like, I guess, having a moment with herself and being like, no, like I'm not always right. I'm not. I genuinely remember reading that, like, oh wow, like they're about to kind of go forward with Carol changing this persona, and you know,
They did. Because right after that was the launch of her solo series.
yeah, I remember
See, see, you're gonna read it. They're gonna get you. I
that.
already know. I already
Okay.
know. I already know. I don't even gotta argue it anymore because you'll come around.
Oh. All right. That
Mm.
is that's a thought. Uh,
What were some events that you did not like?
so I think everyone
And
knows I
and
don't.
what? Okay, so then what makes? But also like what makes an event bad for
I
you?
think I think obviously. So I think we kind of people tend to throw around the term like out of character very loosely. I think that in any comic book, you have to be kind of aware that the characters that you're reading about are going to like change and grow, and like opinions and things like that might sometimes be different than what it was when they appeared in a book 80 years ago. And but in that same vein, I think every character has kind of like a base to their personality. Like there are just some things that you know a character will not do. And so I think any event that like kind of takes the characters too far away from that base personality with like no type of even trying to connect it, that doesn't work. You've already lost me
I
there.
agree.
And then I think an event that feels long and drawn out, a King in Black, because again, you kind of just get to a point like, all right, this can stop. It's
Hmm.
an infestation. We need to burn it away. So that's one that gets me. I think those are really just my big two things for an event.
Mm.
Like, if it's too far off the wagon, it's just kind of like, all right, you're going a little crazy now. And then when it's just too long, you should know when to end something.
For me, it's I agree with them being too long, and I definitely agree when they are like out of character. And like you said, every character has like their base personality, and you shouldn't veer too far away from that. Sometimes I think some characters they turn that up. I think a little bit too loudly when they tap into the whatever that base
Yeah,
personality is for the character. But I agree that those are kind of the things that I would need for something to actually be considered bad. Um, Also, they if it feels random,
hmm,
like if it feels like it's just an event, just to have an event, then I'm already probably gonna be like, what are you doing this for? Is this like a
yeah,
cash grab or something? Like
yeah,
I would say something like Age of Ultron.
yeah,
When
yeah,
that
yeah.
when that came out, that nothing about that fit in with anything else that was going on at Marvel at the time. But it was just like a whole Marvel crossover event that affected everybody, but like no one was even really affected by it afterwards, and it was truly just coming out at the time that the movie was coming out. So it felt like, what is even what's going on here?
Yeah, agreed, agreed.
Yeah. Um, I think that one event that I did not like was Axis.
Oh yeah,
Was
no, I didn't like that. So we were just talking about Marvel having like that nice stretch of like good era.
mm.
I think they definitely hit a point in time where it went down. And
Yeah.
I think a big part of that was that they had like all these events. It was just like nonstop, back to back to back to back. We had like Civil War Tour, we had Axis, we had Fear itself, we had Siege, we had like the Age of Ultron thing, we had like even that Secret Wars revival. Like there was, and even like you would have your self-contained events with certain other books. I remember the X books went through. What was that? They had like an Age of Apocalypse revival again. There was IVX. There was AVX. There was just like constant, constant, constant events, and and I feel like a lot of things got very weak. And I feel like if people were to look back and kind of say a lot of events that they probably didn't like, it would be in that time frame.
Yep.
From
And DC not exempt because At the same time,
Wow.
they were doing they had Forever Evil, and then they had Future's End,
Oh, I
and then they
skipped
had
it.
Convergence,
Oh, I
and
skipped it
then
too.
they had Dark Side War. All of that was all at the
I
same
don't even.
time.
Oh, Dark Side War. Oh my God, yes, and it was the baby.
See,
Yes.
yes. They had all of
Yeah,
that.
I skipped that too. Um, I remember, like, I think I read the first issue or something like that, and I remember the baby, and I was like, yeah, this isn't for me.
Yeah, and then all of that led into oh yeah, Doomsday Clock. Was it that?
They just had Endless Winter.
See, yeah,
Now
they
we're
not.
Infinite Frontier. They're not done
They not
yet.
doing.
They're not done yet. They still working through it.
Yeah. They haven't had too many that I just haven't downright disliked though.
DC?
You know what? Now that I think about it, I think it's just because I skipped them, so I wouldn't know.
That sounds right.
Yeah,
Death
I never
Metal,
read.
I forgot that was a thing too.
Oh yeah.
Joker War.
Oh yeah.
The
Robin
War of
War.
Pillows and Jokes. Robin War. It just doesn't stop. Yeah, they're still figuring it out.
Hmm. Um. Obviously, I was not a fan of Civil War 2.
Mm.
That I think is a perfect example of like the out of character
Mm-hmm.
stuff for
Yeah,
like a lot of people in
a
that book.
lot of businesses.
Now that one I felt like was easily just to be trying to tap into the movie because I think the Civil War movie was coming out at the
What do
exact
you
same time.
what are you gonna do when they adapt Civil War to the MCU? How are you gonna? Are you ready for that?
I'm going to pretend I do not see it. I'm going to continue on and
Because that's Carol's
wow.
event.
Is it?
It is.
Is it?
That is Carol's event.
One yet.
She is the star. She literally leads one of the sides.
Uh
That is
I
Carol's event. It was
to
like it was like all about her and like her team. She had like she was in that book. She had her solo. She was in the Ultimates. Like everyone was like it was Carol's event.
if Carol's hair is cut, it don't count. Pretty much take it there. If Carol's got her shortcut, it did
I
not
guess
happen.
I guess Bree's about to get a chop.
Oh no, we saw her with her being going in game, and we don't got to go back down that road.
Carol's about to get a chop because
See, now that they've already done Civil War in live action, they're not gonna do it again.
oh yes they will.
And Iron Man gone, so they can't
Oh,
ever adapt.
they'll
He
just
did.
replace Iron Man. That's fine.
He did.
That's fine. They'll use like who? Oh shit. They'll probably use Sam.
See,
Oh, but
If
that's fine.
they-
'Cause Sam's gonna. That's gonna be fine though because Sam is probably gonna be take Tony's place, and Tony was right in Civil War
in
2.
Civil
Like
War, I
yeah,
didn't.
Carol still always like Carol was like she was pushing profiling. Like there's literally no way she comes out good in that. Sam, even if he takes the place of Iron Man, he will be fine. Oh my gosh, and it works too because he's a black man. Oh my gosh, and she's a white woman. She's gonna be the Karen. Oh, you're about to be upset.
They're
Oh
never gonna.
wow. Oh wow. And then they have to because Marvel still wants to introduce the Inhumans because that's like
Do you
th-
think they really want to do that?
I think they want to bring them in some type of way.
You think so? I've actually been wondering. We'll have to have another panel on the Inhumans, but like, I've actually been wondering, are they ever going to
I
revive
don't
them? Like,
I don't
do
think it's
anything?
gonna be I don't think it's gonna be as big as they like wanted it to be. Again, we have the X-Men now. We don't need the Inhumans. But I do think they'll still try and throw
Like
something
all X-Men biases aside, like, I wonder, do they really want to do anything with the Inhumans? Like,
again, like they got the X Men. Like truly, like that's me saying that with all bias aside. Like we only were getting the Inhumans because we didn't have the X Men. And then what we did give the Inhumans and like Agents of Shield and stuff, like it was fine. But again, it was whatever they're gonna do in the movies would have contradicted that. It was
yeah,
the whole Inhumans thing was very messy because like Marvel TV was doing their own thing, and then we had the Marvel movie, which like nobody really knew what was going on with it. So I think they're just gonna kind of like lay it low. I think they're gonna bring them in, but I do not think it's going to be the big franchise that they originally pegged
Like
it to be.
they won't think have their own corner of stuff. Like it will just be they
No,
exist.
we'll probably get some of them in Eternals,
Oh,
or like
I'm really excited for the movie.
they'll spin out of Eternals some way. But yeah, that's gonna happen. We're definitely gonna see Civil War 2 some type of way.
That don't make no sense.
What else? What else are they gonna get Carol to do?
They're not gonna get Carrie to do too much more after this. People want to see Rogue, so they'll probably just write her off.
They want to see Rogue and Carol fight, and they want to see Carol come back and be
No, they
miserable.
don't. No, they don't.
No, no, they don't want. I'm not saying that in a positive way. They want to see her be like miserable after Rogue has beat her up.
That's wild. People hate that girl, even though she don't do nothing.
Yeah,
Hey,
like there's like
Carol Rogue couldn't be, just to set the record straight there. Rogue couldn't be Carol without sneaking up on her. So let's leave that there.
okay. Like what you got to say. I'm just saying, Civil War 2 is definitely coming in some form or fashion, and Carol's going to be at the forefront of it. And you need to, because like literally,
Why would they make a movie about her profiling somebody? A movie?
Why would? It's the story. Because because at the end of the day, also, it's not about like her necessarily profiling people. It's about her like preemptive justice.
That's profiling.
I mean, yes, but you know what they're gonna call it because she has to do it. It's just you just need to accept it. Like it's okay, but it's like you cannot prop Carol up as like one of the new leads of your universe and your franchise headliner, and not give her her event.
The problem with that is it's not her event. They could do a Civil War 2 with her on Earth because although she will be wrong in stance, who gonna tell her no? She was the most powerful one there. What y'all gonna do?
I mean, they told her no more. Who cares? Wanda won't be on her side probably.
Ew.
Like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean?
No.
You need to get ready.
No.
You need to get ready.
I don't see that. I don't see that.
I mean, it's probably not gonna happen until we're like, I don't know, like 40 maybe.
They're gonna give her the Korvac saga, if anything.
Don't nobody even know what that is.
I need to read more stuff outside of the
X-Men
comics.
You cannot. No, I just don't think anybody knows what Carol does with it. Like
that's
Civil
War 2. That's not her event. They just give her that because like she would need somebody else to fight.
Because her event is Civil War 2.
She hasn't had an event yet. It's not. She hasn't had one.
I need you to. I'm just saying. I need you to prepare yourself.
I'm prepared for it. Captain Marvel, you know, and all her billion-dollar franchises, but I'm not worried about seeing no Civil War 2 on screen. That book sucked. Why would they adapt a book that sucked? That's like saying, are we gonna see Axis 2?
I mean, we might.
That's good.
Right. We'll run out of stories after a while.
I was having a conversation with someone. They were asking if I thought Wonder Man would actually make it into the MCU, and I said yes. But all biases aside from me wanting to see him, they're running out of Avengers to add into these shows.
Yeah.
Like, at some point they're gonna have to get to it.
Jack of Hearts is coming. You guys gotta get ready. I've got stand cards ready and waiting for whoever wants to join the bandwagon because Jack is coming. Okay, Firebird, Jack Hearts. We might even get a little death cry. I'm very excited right now.
Do you think there should be some kind of event that kind of brings these characters that you're mentioning back around?
Oh,
Do characters like that need an event to be brought back around, or can they just be introduced again?
Death Cry, yes, because like we literally saw her kind of like explode on page. Jack of Hearts is actually alive. He's already come back.
I didn't know that.
He came back in one of the Marvel Zombies miniseries as like a part of something called Project Pegasus. They revived him, so he's just like hanging around. Other characters like Firebird, and then no, I also don't think it needs to be an event because they pop up here and there in like the background. Like Firebird was in the initiative. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
fair, yeah.
So it's kind of like you can say like, oh yes, these people are still technically being active heroes wherever they are. We just don't see them.
Mm,
Or
that's fair.
or it's like they're still active hero and now we're seeing them again because like this big thing is bringing them into it.
Do you like when events introduce new characters into them?
Yes and no. It feels like worrisome sometimes because a lot of times when you have a character who you haven't seen in a long time appear in an event, it typically means that character is about to die.
Yeah.
And and if it's like a character you like, when you get there, it's like, oh wow, Jack of Hearts is here, and then it's like, oh, Jack of Hearts is here.
That's
He's
how I felt
about
about
to.
Lightning when he showed up in No Surrender. I was like, oh yes, he's getting some shine. Then I was like, now hold on.
He's like, hold on, let's back it up. I mean, to be fair, it doesn't always happen. Like, I think Lightning came out very well
Yeah,
in that,
yeah.
obviously. So when it's like it's good, but it's like you kind of approach it with some trepidation. It's just like I don't know how this is going to end up. It's great to see you again, but am I going to see you by the end of this issue? I don't know.
Now, while we close off here, what is something you hope to see from company-wide events?
Less of them.
Fair.
um, and I only say that because I don't know. I don't. At least not having like 3 to 4 a year. Maybe like I'm good with like the big summer event, the winter event. Like if those are what we got to do for the entire line, like okay, that's fine. But again, I don't actually feel like we've had like a really well. No, King and Black just happened. That's a lie.
And you're in Heroes Reborn right now.
Yeah, I'm in the Heroes Reborn. Yeah, so less of them. That's definitely definitely something that I think we should do.
Yeah. I think for me it would be uh less of them, but have them be more like tight, you know?
Mhm.
So that they
A little
don't
bit
just
more
like
character focus.
yeah.
But I think, and I get that. I think the only thing with that is you run into it with a lot of events. It starts to become if it's too character focused. It's like, oh, we could have just did this in their own book, which also,
Yeah, you
just
could do
do it.
that.
If you do want to do that, like, please do.
All right, y'all. Let's take a break and then we will come back for another reread.
Mm. All right, we are back for another reread, and this week we had something very special. Civil
Yes,
War.
yeah. Yeah,
We
Civil
all
War
know. We all know it. Civil
taking us
War.
back.
It took us back indeed. It is written by Frank Miller with art throughout by Steve McNiven, and he was given art
Oh yeah.
wise,
Yeah.
like
McNiven's art is really, really good.
it was truly carrying the story.
Hmm.
So shout out to him for that. So like everybody kind of knows about what Civil War. Civil War is actually again like I was just saying earlier, like Civil War is one of the few events that truly did change the Marvel landscape for years to come. You know, a lot of times you'll see at these events they say nothing will ever be the same. Like this is the end of you know it. Like this ain't your father's Justice League, and like it nothing happens. But Civil War very much changed the landscape of not only Marvel's universe, but I kind of think like just superhero comics in general.
Yeah,
Like
definitely.
that hero versus hero trope, it took a brand new life after Civil War, and shout out to them for that.
Yeah. That whole like you said, that whole hero trope of the hero versus hero thing really got ramped up after this. I think people genuinely just like seeing superheroes fight each other, and this story kind of tapped into that at the time when people were really just kind of hungry for that. And I mean, you get after this, this type of story was everywhere. You know,
Okay.
from the injustice and any type of any type of story really where the heroes are kind of butting heads. I honestly think that Civil War was kind of the thing that jumped it off. So shout out to them for having that kind of impact. And like you said earlier, this has lasted for so long. Like the entire repercussions between the team and how people kind of the heroes and how they look at each other kind of really were affected after this. Yeah.
And it's interesting, rereading this, I was going through and I was like tweeting along with it, and I was like, there's not really a lot that actually happens in this event. Like, there is a lot of standing around, there's a lot of posturing. Like, I realized Falcon actually gets a lot of screen time in this. Like, he's talking, he's kind of like leading some battles every now and again, and I'm like, I never would have remembered that Falcon was even a part of this event. Because the dialogue seems almost, it's a little wooden, to be frank, to the point where like you kind of know exactly like what's going on, or not what's going on, but like the people who are talking, it could be anybody talking. So it's just like whatever, that's what it is, and that is the biggest like failing point I think this event has. But it succeeds again because Magnificent Art is amazing, and then when the action happens, the action, everything. Like, this reminds you, don't play with Steve Rogers. Because he is Captain America for a reason. That is America's super soldier. All right?
He gonna fight.
He's gonna fight. He's gonna knock you down. I think this one also feels a little bit better than Civil War 2. I feel like the sides that were chosen actually made sense. I feel like the people who were pro-registration, like, they felt like they should have been pro-registration. She-Hulk, Giant Man, Wonder Man, Carol, like, yes, those are the people who you would assume to be your cops. And the people who were anti-registration, Cap,
Bishop,
Falcon. Oh, Bishop. Yeah, I really hate when they remind us that he's a cop.
Let's not forget.
You get that whole scene with like Tony trying to recruit Emma and the mutants, and she's like, no. First of all, Emma loves to give that speech about like how the Avengers don't be there for the X-Men, and it's like, girl.
Emma, when did Emma become so will someone please think of the children? Like, when did that become her whole motif?
Been that way.
Yeah, but I feel like sometimes in events it gets cranked up. Remember earlier where I talked about like certain motifs about a character kind of get like turned up a little bit? It was fine in this. I was mostly kind of thinking of her in like X of Swords, where she was being a little hysterical about like, oh, will someone please think of the children? And it's like, girl.
That was dramatic. She loves to give that speech. But again, I know people don't like to hear it, but the Avengers and the X-Men should actually have like a very good relationship. So many those members singularly are like close with each other and have helped each other through times. Even like, I know I've tweeted this before. We all may feel how we feel about Carol, but like the X-Men don't really have a reason to hate her.
No.
She's kind of like a lot of their best friends.
She erased their names from the government so that they could go back to being secrets.
She was on the team. Because Rogue was going to join.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that Rogue was good. Like,
they were running around as cops. She was working for, I think, the DOJ at the time, and she was like helping them with their clearances and like getting stuff. Like, they like her. So again, I felt like the sides of Civil War actually like made sense, and the tension that the characters felt or had for each other felt genuine. Like, even
I feel like that's because the topic of this is like, it fits their stories more compared to like a Civil War 2. You're never going to come out on the right side of a profiling story. Whereas this one, I felt like you can make whatever choices you want to make on which side you want to join on or whatever, but each side still had valid points, if that makes sense. So like, it made sense that their team would be divided this way and sides would be drawn versus something like a Civil War 2 where it's about profiling. This fits it affects their communities, And
even so, like, when Hill kind of decides to bring in the villains to help the pro-registration side, like, you think about that, like, that's something that has callbacks to when the government used to like take inmates and like make them fight in the wars and things like that. Like, these are all kind of things, like you said, that work for this story and fit more into their world, because you kind of hit a point. It's, when do you look at yourself truly as the hero versus the villain doing whatever you want? Or like aligning yourself with these bad people because it's for the quote unquote greater good.
Now, this story opens with the New Warriors, a new team of New Warriors, and they're going after some villains trying to get their ratings up. I know that you recently have been doing some New Warriors readings. How did you feel about this kind of showing of them now compared to how you read this, I don't know, 16 years ago when it came out?
Why do you keep doing that? Anyway, truthfully, I didn't really have too much of a different, in my opinion of it. I do not like name Marita, so like her kind
She
of
gotta kick it off.
yeah, like her being the reason that the whole mission kind of went south and like all that stuff, and he blew up the way he did. Like I totally see that being her fault. Speedball, he is quickly climbing up the list of like favorite characters for me. To be perfectly honest with you, so this was interesting just because now having a newfound appreciation for him, I'm excited to like see the transformation from like Speedball to Penance, and then I think he goes back to Speedball. So like I'm excited to see that like in a new light.
Yeah, I missed out on all of his Penance era, so you have to tell me how that goes.
Yeah, the rest of the New Warriors, like the Debris Girl, the Germ guy, I don't actually know who they are. So,
Okay. I mean, we can do without them anyway. So,
and then like the thing with Night Thrasher, I think Night Thrasher's worked out because he ended up being in that Contest of Champions book later written by Al Ewing, which was pretty cool.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So like the story in that was that right before the blast, when the blast was happening, Game Master grabbed Night Thrasher at the last second, so he didn't actually die in that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Hey, so you got Al Ewing Night Thrasher content?
Yeah.
Damn. Okay. Wow. Okay, so after that entire like blast happens with Nitro killing all those kids in Stanford, then we get a portion of the heroes kind of doing the cleanup, and there's the scene of Marvel Girl, Rachel Summers using her powers there, and it always makes me feel like they wanted that to just be Jean, but Jean was dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's usually why Rachel's around.
Well, I didn't want to say it, but yeah. Yeah. That's usually why she's around. And then we have the entire funeral scene with Tony showing up to the funerals of one of the victims, and the mom comes and spits in his face and lets her know that it's his fault that her son is dead. And now this all about pretty much the superhero community is getting tied up in all of this and trying to figure out what's going on. Johnny Storm gets jumped at a club, and all the yeah, that was rough. And then all the superheroes are kind of getting together and trying to decide what's going to be their next step.
Yeah.
And then the superhero registration act goes into effect. So it is what it is from there.
You know, you got your people who sign, you got your people who run. I think some things like didn't really work. I think Punisher kind of running around after the team in the ski mask, that was strange.
Yeah.
I did appreciate that when he like kind of came into the group, Monica Rambeau was basically like, "What are you doing here?" She was dragging him the entire time.
Yeah, she's not a fan.
And how did you feel about the Spider-Man reveal when Peter Parker like reveals his identity to everybody? Obviously, the people who knew him, it was a big deal to them, but in general.
Okay, I remember now anyway. It is okay. It's whatever with him revealing. Actually, now that I'm looking back at it, it's kind of rough because the way they had to walk that back sucks. Because the way they walk this one back is where you get the one more day thing. And I know you don't like Spider-Man, but I'm sure that you've heard about One More Day being the event that like really kind of changed things for Spidey. But at the time though, I remember reading it and thinking, holy shit, this is gonna like really change a lot for Spider-Man, because a lot of his stories and problems are all pretty much bent on or depend on him and his like secret identity. And so I thought that was such a huge thing to happen, because that's been such a secret, for everyone.
Were you like following the Spider-Man books after this event?
Yeah, I was.
Do you feel like the aftermath was done well?
yeah, Aunt May got killed.
Oh,
Like,
okay. Dang.
just like he said in in the beginning of the of Civil War, where he was like, my secret identity is important to me, and Sue, my girl, was like, secret identities have never been that big of an issue for the Fantastic Four. Maybe it's not going to be that big of a problem for you.
All
And he
right.
says, yeah, that's great until until I show up and the Vulture is outside of my house. And
Yeah.
sure enough, after this, Aunt May got like seriously hurt, and people were like stalking their home, and that's kind of what got the whole one more day thing going.
Dang. All right. Oh, dang. Poor Spidey. Uh,
Yeah.
Speaking of Sue, she had like some nice moments throughout this. This was a good little thing for her.
Yes.
Like the moments with her and Reed and kind of like being upset about him like being involved in whatever with the robot Hulk. I mean, right now, excuse me, not robot Hulk, robot Thor, and her like walking out on him, but still like leaving the note to be like, this is why, and
Yeah.
like, it's like this is why, like, and I'm gonna go do this, and it's like when you get your head together, then I'll come back, and not the other way around.
Listen, I know that I know you and like a lot of other people don't read a lot of Fantastic Four stuff, but Sue is my like number one favorite Marvel character, and I was excited for this reread because she does have a pretty great showcasing in this, and it shows like her personality in this, which is she's gonna ride for her man, yes, but like even he doesn't make the smartest decisions. She doesn't stand by them just
Yeah.
because she's not gonna follow
Okay,
him
she's
around.
not. She's not. I feel like you're about to say a name.
No,
I
I'm
feel
just saying,
like you're about to say a name right there, and like you just kind of stop yourself. Who is she not like?
she's not like other characters who are just kind of following their partners around.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
She kind
guess
of
we'll
makes
have to figure out who that is.
she she makes her own decisions, but that's still her husband.
Yeah.
But that don't mean she can't like walk up on out him. And I also like the fact that the note that she left for him also kind of shows you their relationship because she knows how logical he is,
Yeah.
and like that he wouldn't understand like some stuff or whatever because he is thinking so logically, because for him the registration act makes sense, right? Because like it's just logic. And I appreciate the fact that she left the note for him and broke down everything of what she did, the food and the sex and all of that, and why everything was happening. No, it's not us working things out. It's this is good for the immune system. um, and yeah, this affected the Fantastic Four as well after this post Civil War. Sue didn't just,
Come back.
come back. It wasn't just like, oh, the great, they're back together again kind of thing, like some people do. But I think they like they left. They left the team. Sue and Reed went on like a second honeymoon, I think is what they tried to call it, or something like that, where they kind of went on their own. And Storm and Black Panther joined it. This is when they joined the team.
Oh, okay, okay. I do remember when they joined up with the team. That's when Thing asked Storm if her hair was a weave. I
Yes, that
remember.
was.
Yeah. Yes. I do remember that.
But they were left for a while. And again, it wasn't like we need to just be shown on one page making up again. They like had to work some things out because she didn't like the way that he was a fascist.
Okay. That's
I think
it.
she says it in Civil War too, like his fascist like ideas are
That's a
ridiculous.
word. How did you feel about like we kind of got some moments where the heroes were turning, like people were switching sides. Obviously, like Sue and Johnny went to the anti-registration side. We saw that Tigra was a mole for the pro-registration side, and were there any of the ones who jumped that kind of shocked you?
No, that actually all kind of fit in my opinion, especially with Tigra. um,
Hey, she's awful.
yeah, that kind of makes sense for me with her. And Johnny and Sue obviously made sense because they, kind of think for themselves. So yeah, I think for the most part, everybody's the people who switch sides, it made sense.
I think the only side switch that didn't stick with me was Cable. When Punisher joined up with the anti-registration side, like he was one of the people like, oh, Punisher's here, something. I don't know. He made like some weird comment about like how he was kind of scared or like something was scary or they just. And I was just like, that doesn't sound like Cable. Like Cable would not go and work with Iron Man in this particular thing. So that one was very odd to me.
Cable even being involved in this was weird to me. I don't understand why he was there.
I think Miller just wanted to write him some Cable.
I think so too.
But that was really cool. I liked seeing the Young Avengers up in there, and kind of
Wiccan.
that was Wiccan was doing his thing. Cloak looked really good. Also, I really kind of want them to make Cloak a mutant again.
His teleporter. He could be cool in Way of X with the other teleporters.
Come on.
Get in there.
I see the vision. Every fight that Captain America was in was giving. From the first one when he broke out of the helicarrier, when S.H.I.E.L.D. was trying to take him down, his first fight with Iron Man, when he was like fighting in the big battle with all the heroes again, the second fight with Iron Man. And that's also one thing that I will say that this event did. Like, if you are a Cat fan,
oh yeah,
it gave you some good. Like Tony, honestly, he won at the end of the day. Like,
yeah.
He was being made a fool of the entire time.
Yeah.
Steve was always one step ahead of him. He like even when they were talking about Tigra and her being a mole, he was like, "We already know." He was like, and I love when he said that she was just standing there. She was like, "What?" It was like, "Yeah, we already know that she's like lying to us. We actually have someone on our side, on your side," and that's when they show Hulkling. He was been posing as Giant Man, so like that was great. Like, if you're a Cat fan, you see why Steve Rogers is like that guy.
Yeah.
And I love that for me.
I did like the joke or running gag of the gateway, not the gateway, the prison or whatever being 42. Oh, you know about 42 being like the answer to life?
Really?
Yeah. So like in I think it was in actual science, there's like a question of like I'm not gonna get too nerdy with this, but like there's like a question of like how answering these cubes, and the answer is 42. But in like in media and literature, I think it was The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I think it was where a character is asked a question of what's the answer to the universe, and they answer 42. And it's, if you notice in all of Marvel comics, that's the answer to that's everywhere. 42 is the number of the spider that Miles Morales got bitten in. 42 is the name of the detention center that Reed Richards built. Like if you look in this, if you look in the background for stuff, 42 is it. Yeah.
Okay, fun.
Fun fact. Yeah. It's supposed to be like the answer to life, but it's a running gag in Marvel. And I think that you remember when Bendis, whenever anyone would get arrested in his books and they would go to a precinct.
And like somebody always thinks they're Jean Grey.
Yeah. Yeah. He would mention that too and being like, they're going to put cell 42. Y'all know that's the answer to life. Like, yeah.
I got to go back and read some of those then. Okay.
So, that's a fun fact.
Civil War.
What would you rate Civil War now? What did you rate it back then, and what did you rate it now? Back then, I would have given it a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I probably agree with you there.
If not a 10 out of 10. I remember like, I was like, what, 15 when this came out? And I was like, oh, hell yeah. Absolutely. And like Sue was giving in this too. I was like, yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I agree. I would probably put it up there. Now, I would put it much lower, only because, again, we lost a lot of like character moments. We have a lot of characters standing around and talking, but nobody's really saying anything, and nobody outside of Cap and Iron Man really feels distinct enough to make a difference to the story. I'd probably give it like a 6 now. The art is still giving.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everything. I think again when the action is done, it's done extremely well. It feels brutal. I think about the scene when Spider-Man was finally switching sides and like leaving Iron Man, and they're like he has the guys chasing him in the sewers, and they're like attacking him. I was like, oh, this feels brutal. I was like, I really feel for Peter Parker right now. Like he's getting his little ass beat. Um, so that just like the arc carries the story completely. So that's
Yeah,
what.
it does. I would give it like a 7.5 now.
Mm-hmm.
I still enjoy the story. The art carries it a lot. Um, but kind of like you said, that the main story doesn't really give you a lot outside of it just being very beautiful and the action moments. But kind of like what we said earlier while we were on our panel talking about events, this did what I liked, which was there was the main event and then there were the tie-ins on the outside, which give you the meat of the story, while the main event is still solid
And I see that, and I think that's kind of why
because the
that's why
Fantastic Four tie-ins were good as hell. I'm not gonna lie.
they were a lot of them were good, but I think that's actually why I take this one down a little bit because I feel like in this one I would have at least maybe enjoyed a passing conversation or something. I feel like some things would happen sometimes that the fallout of it was in the tie-in series, so we
Yeah.
get it in the main series. So it feels awkward when you're just reading that on its own. So it's like you're kind of like jumping from point to point, and it's just like, oh, how did we get here?
That's fair.
Oh, also, how did you feel about Goliath in this?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
He is
obviously I'm a
hero
kid.
death.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't think that there needed to be a hero death in this. But I understand the weight of everything that was happening because of the clone Thor that is the thing that's doing it. So you have to really show that the registration side is getting out of hand with not only with this clone, but like now they have killed someone. The clone has killed someone, so they're responsible for that. Um, I just wish it didn't have to be Goliath. I
He
mean,
had a
damn,
moment.
I gotta kill a black
There's
man.
also a lot of there's also a lot of pro cop propaganda putting through this.
Yeah.
you know, um, I know Marvel loves their military propaganda or whatever, and Marvel was like, Marvel. I mean, Miller was really kind of throwing this like pro cop when Goliath's wife meets up with Iron Man, and she was like, "Oh, Goliath knew what he was doing was wrong. Like, if he was some thug on the street waving a gun at a cop, he should expect to get shot." And I was just like, "What?"
Oh yeah, that was the woman whose son died who gave that speech to him, and I was like,
I thought
ooh.
that one was Goliath's wife because the woman came in the beginning when she spit in his face, but this was actually at Goliath's funeral.
Oh, I
This
thought that was
was
him.
that the same woman?
I thought that was the same woman. It's
It might
not?
it might have been. I thought it was the same woman. But it just, I mean, even so, it just felt there's a lot of pro cop propaganda up and through this story,
Yeah.
and it,
Yeah.
and they, and they win.
Yeah.
Mm, 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 mm. Do you?
Yeah, I look, it's her name was Miss Sharp. It was the same woman. Like, now why did she even come to his funeral? Huh.
That makes sense. Why
Just that was for that pop
just
that
just
pop.
to tell us that just to tell us that Goliath deserved to die.
Big yikes.
like literally, like she just popped up to tell us, oh yeah, he deserves to die.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Child.
Now as an adult, it's not as great as it was when I was a kid. That much I would definitely say. But McNiven's art is fantastic and it really carries that story. So I still give it like a solid 7.
Well, not in seven, but that's solid.
All right, y'all. Well, that brings us to the end of the show. I hope you guys really loved Civil War. Catch us next week where we'll be watching the movie um, and tune into our social media accounts because I might just do like a Instagram live or something where we could hang out before watching it or something. We'll
Ooh,
see. Tune into
Twitter
that.
Spaces.
Yeah. Or do some Twitter spaces that we could talk about it after the movie. Be on the lookout for that information. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Another Relaunch. You can find us on YouTube at Another Relaunch TV. You can find Send us emails, all that kind of stuff. Anything you want to get us to know, any questions, concerns, relaunches you may want us to read, ideas you got, send it to at anotherrelaunch@gmail.com. You can find me at UncannyLZ. Keenan, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Keenan Lance. You know, it's got the underscore at the end.
All right, y'all. Let's get up out of here. We'll catch y'all next week.
Peace.